it does read like a bit of a who's who. You may have heard of the tall whites. I'll give it a designation, P51. A lot of the designations I give relate to the star systems that they come from. I don't know all the star systems, but I've listed a couple. There's the tall whites, as I've mentioned. There's some from Epsilon Eridani at star system about 10.5 light years from here. There's Zeta Reticulans, of course, the greys. Everybody loves them. There's a non-human biped species that specializes in quantum tunnels. They're from a star system called Fomalhaut. There's Pleiadians, of course. They're just a human species. There's people from, well, I met one from Vega. Met a reptilian, not a very nice one. An insect species. And I've come into contact with the orbs and an antimatter projection. So that covers about it all. The phenomenon I was talking about that may relate to another species is an entity that looked like glass. But I'll tell you more about that later on. So what do I know about tall whites? Well, they're an evolutionary hybrid, the telepaths, and interesting species because they're both eukaryotic and prokaryotic. If you know anything about biology, it's part plant and part animal. That's their evolutionary history. Usually plants can't evolve into a bipedal life form. They usually don't move around an awful lot. But this one, its evolutionary history is quite unique. It evolved with the help of bacterium. So it's really an interesting species. I had quite a lot of contact with those ones. The Epsilon Eridani are non-human bipeds, midgets with large heads. Zeta Reticulans, of course, you know them as the greys, telepaths. What I know about them is they have a linear hierarchy, and the sexes are divided into alphas and betas. They don't have genitals, and they mainly reproduce through assisted reproduction technology. You can tell the difference between alphas and betas because one is slightly smaller than the other. The human species, that's quite interesting. I actually have some of my notes here. That, many years ago, in 1972, I went up into, well, I actually wrote an anti-gravity beam up into a flying saucer, and I met several kinds of aliens up there. One of them was from the Pleiades, and she was human-looking, except for one or two different biological things. I was told by her that there was actually two factions, and they don't actually come from the Pleiades. They migrated there from elsewhere. There was two factions, and they had a bit of a war, and one lot ended off in the Pleiades, which is a very young star system, mainly blue-white stars, about 7,000 to 8,000 degrees in temperature. So this one goes by the name of Maya. She's sometimes known as the Sapphire Princess. Whether she actually is a princess, I'm not really sure, but I can tell you that the society is female dominated, and she gave that impression to me quite a lot. She was tall, very blonde, leggy, very good looking, but she's genetically engineered. She's able to carry male sperm once she's been seeded, and she can do that for up to 30 days and initiate her own gestation cycle. She comes from a city of domes which contains something like 400 million people. That's what she said to me. The Pleiades is known as the Seven Sisters, but it actually contains 9 stars. There are planets in a habitable zone. A lot of the stars are main sequence. Our star is the Sun is a main sequence star. All that means is that they're very stable stars, and they convert hydrogen into helium, and they usually have a long life. But if you get a star in the blue-white category, they tend to have a very short life. So it kind of like backs up, if you like, that they're not actually from there, they migrated. Okay. There was another species from Vega, a little brunette that I met. I don't know too much about this one because she never really said very much to me. But what they're famous for is, having visited this planet before, they have voice-activated technology, which enables them to materialize objects through space. It's not magic, it's just a matter transport system. But people have sometimes given them the designation as being a witch. That's not true at all. Zeta Reticulans, they're very good biologists. There isn't anything that they don't know about biology. When I was up in 1972, I came across the Greys. I'd seen them before when I was a kid. I had lifelong experiences, but I've seen fetuses in tanks of amniotic fluid and things like that. I was medically examined when I was a kid. I don't know why they didn't do that when I was older, but when that happened, I was about eight. So a really interesting one is the species from Fomalhaut. Fomalhaut is about let's see, light years from here. Yeah, it's about 25 light years from here, or 7.7 parsecs. It's actually a trinary star system. I was told it was a binary, but it's actually trinary, 3 stars. And what makes them interesting is that they don't breathe our atmosphere. I've seen them, and they wear a suit. They're a biped. They vocalize, probably with the aid of technology, and they have time travel capability. A lot of people think that you can't have a star system go between two double stars. That's not actually right. The tidal forces don't rip them apart. You can actually have up to 4 planets in a binary system. The stars in the Fomalhaut system are class AV3 main sequence, and 2 of the major stars, one's a K-type star, it's orange in colour, and the other's an M-type star, LP8767-10. It has a planetary system which was discovered in 2008, Fomalhaut B. So there is evidence that there is a star system there, and there could be life on a planet going around that system, backed up. So I'm mentioning this as a kind of not a justification, but just as a pointer that a lot planetary systems are quite common, and when you get told where some species come from, you know, there's a lot of disinformation. You can get it from some disinformation from the species themselves, because you're constantly challenged with your intelligence and things like that. Anyway, these stars K and M type, they're very cool stars. They're about 3,500 degrees. That is in comparison with our sun, which is about 5,500. It's G2 type. Anyway, what they do is they're famous for a piece of technology called quantum tunneling. And what they do is they actually punch a hole right through space. And when you see a spatial anomaly, it kind of like shimmers and it's dark. And if you go into the tunnel itself, it has a kind of musty smell, and there's a kind of strange glowy light. You can walk right through it from one end to the other. Not only will it shift you in space, but it will also shift you in time. I had quite a number of experiences with that when I was a kid. They actually used to come into my bedroom, and amongst some of the other species. When I was a kid, I mainly was in contact with tall whites, the zeta reticulans, the greys, formalhaut, of course, and the midgets. I experienced things like being abducted from my bed, put on a gurney, and actually floated right through a window without breaking it, right up into a starship, and I was able to look down at my house where I actually lived. And this is over a major city. If you think this can't happen, you'd be surprised. Most people aren't really interested in flying saucers at all, or alien life. Are too preoccupied with paying the gas bill, looking after the kids, or paying the mortgage or something like that. They don't even look up in the sky half the time. I've seen things in Sydney a few years ago, flying saucer around Kensington Oval, for instance, 6:30 at night, or during the day at 3:30 in the afternoon. And very large spaceships, the colour of the sun, but you can slightly see the difference because there's little flashing black spots that display themselves all the time. Most people just don't see them. The last time I saw a machine, a craft, was actually 2012, and I was actually outside Randwick TAFE at a bus stop. It was cylindrical, very dark. It moved towards Centennial Park and then back to the city. So I've seen all sorts of things and had very different experiences. The orbs I encountered when I was quite young. Had a lot of experiences when I was young, around about 8 years old. They're actually an energy life form. At first I was told that they were robotic, but I learned later that they're actually a pure energy life form, and they're telepaths. They can read your mind. Not that I've been given a lot of information in my contacts at all. I've mainly seen things. As regards the quantum tunneling thing, I was actually given a piece of technology that looks like a TV channel change thing, and that was programmed, and that was given to me, and I experimented with it, and I've actually opened up a spatial anomaly and walked through it. But because it was pre-programmed, I didn't go very far, and stuff like that. As regards antimatter, well, a lot of people think that if you mix matter and antimatter, you get an automatic explosion. You don't. Every person sitting in this room has antimatter in them. Every atom in your body contains a measure of antimatter, and the particles contra-rotate. They're held together by neutral particles, neutrons and neutrinos. So that's why you're stable and don't explode. Also, on a subatomic level, you have dipoles and monopoles that rotate. So if you imagine a television set, say the old cathode ray tube kind, when there's no transmission, you see all these white dots flashing and moving about the screen. The subatomic world is a bit like that. A lot of these particles don't touch each other, don't go anywhere near each other. They move backwards and forwards or traverse in different straight lines. There must actually be regions of outer space where you can have antimatter. It wouldn't necessarily be a parallel world, although that probably is possible, because there are at least 10 to 12 theoretical dimensions. So what happened with this is, again, I was in my bedroom when I was a child, and I woke up one night. It was in the middle of the morning, say about 2 or 3 o'clock, and heard a voice call out. When I opened my eyes and looked around, there was a projection right in front of my eyes, raised up from the bed, and it looked like a man standing on a stage, and it was the figure of a biped, and inside the room there was a terrible smell of ozone, which you get when you have electricity flowing. You probably all smelt that electricity smell, you know, the blue smell? Yeah, it's actually ozone. So on the body of this figure, there were flashes of yellow sparks, and there was that heavy smell of ozone there, and I was able to talk to this entity, and he let me know that it was an antimatter projection. So what I was saying was something that had been projected but was stable enough not to cancel itself out. Basically, he was really trying to find out what I knew as a kid about the universe. So we were discussing things like the Big Bang Theory or the steady state. And he was saying to me that you should think along the lines of both of those things being together. And so we had that conversation that went on about those kinds of things. If I tell you about the Maya, the girl from the Pleiades, she actually took me there to the city of Domes. I do believe I was there because when I looked up into the sky, all the star patterns were different, and the city was quite different. The transport system that they have there, it's not necessarily mass transport. What they have is lots of little taxis, which are well, not really taxis, they're just cars there, and you can pick one up, you drive to where you go, and you leave it there, and you can pick it up, and you can come back. Probably a bit like what's happening now with Uber, if you like. But she took me all over, and I was in this house with her and things like that, and there were a few other people there, and I didn't know the ins and outs of that society until she sort of filled me in. But the first time I met her, she was actually a child. So in a way, we'd met before when I met her again in 1972. As a child, she talked about coming from the stars and how different things were. As an adult, she was much more forthright and took control of the situation pretty quickly. Basically, she had a few women actually come into the room and prepare me for love making, as you know, as cliched as it might sound, but it wasn't to me at the time. The room I was in was actually very sparse. There was just a bed in it, or more like a table actually. And one of the things about this spaceship was it's all in one piece. There are no doors. It's all bulkheads. The only way you can move from room to room or get into a corridor is by activating a mechanism that shifts atoms in the wall to one side, and then that lets you out. You're able to walk out. There's a lot of force fields in it. If you actually enter a spaceship, because it's all in one piece, they will activate this system that shifts the atoms, and you go right through. You can feel it as you go through it. You can feel the force field, but it doesn't hurt you in any way. Probably one of the reasons they have the force field is if you're hit by a meteorite and you're traveling over the speed of light, and they do travel superluminal speeds, but by bending space. There's no reason in physics why you can't do that. Nikola Tesla demonstrated it in the 1930s and 40s. He built a big transformer and he shoved 1 million volts through it, and probably about a foot away from the transformer you could actually feel the field. You can actually do this at home with a television set. If you put your hand about 1 inch from the screen, you'll feel what's like a wind that's quite warm. That's actually particles and the force field generated by the electrics in the television set. So the same physics exists in the spacecraft. It's the same physics that you get all over the universe. It's not much different, except some people know more about how the physics works. We're still at an elementary level, but it's if you've been trained in it, it shouldn't be too difficult to understand how things work. Anyway, it is possible to shift atoms. It was demonstrated actually here in Sydney not long ago up in Sydney University. You can take a single atom and you can put it in a magnetic field, and you can actually, if you zap it with a laser, you can actually transfer its ground state information to another atom in another room. A lot of people think that the SETI project is the be-all and end-all of everything, because it looks at a lot of the electromagnetic spectrum up to maybe 2 million wavelengths. But aliens don't usually communicate like that unless they're wanting to contact a less technological species. I would suggest that they probably use this quantum system of communication, because all the particles in the universe are connected to each other. So you can transfer information from one place to the other, and you can actually do things like actually write things on a single atom now. This is how far we've come. So if you think the alien technology is way and above that, you may be right, you might not be quite right at all. It's easily within the ordinary person's understanding if you've been born in the 20th century. So, but yeah, it's very interesting. They do things with gravity. They have an anti-gravity belt, which will float you up off the ground at quite high heights. The principles of how that work I don't quite know. It was never explained to me. A lot of things that I'm talking about haven't been explained to me. It's I've had to fathom it out for myself. For instance, there's one species which is said to come from Andromeda. Now, I don't take what I'm told literally. Andromeda is known to be a galaxy which is about 250 million light years away, but there's also an Andromeda constellation which is not far from Pegasus in the southern hemisphere, and so I did a bit of research into where some of these star systems lie. So basically, the one from Andromeda was an interesting species because it was totally non-human from the point of view that it was not a biped at all. It had a shape like a coconut haystack. It didn't have any legs, and it had retractable arms, and it was a cyclops. It only had one large eye in the center. It moved around on cilia, which are hair-like things, and it was able to pop in and out of my room again as a kid. I think I was about 13 or something like that, and it has a little. It had a little belt attached to it with a small black box on it, and the conversation I had with it, it actually travels through hyperspace. Now, I'm not sure what hyperspace is, but it helps if you can visualize in your mind that space has a top, middle, and bottom. If you want to put it simply, we live in the visible light spectrum, so hyperspace is either top or bottom of that. Hyperspace has a characteristic whereby you can be in the same place at the same time, but nobody can see you because you're in a slightly different dimension. In hyperspace, it allows you to travel great distances in a short amount of time. I don't believe it's the Starship system where you bend space to travel at superluminal speeds. It works on different principles altogether. What I know about aliens is I would really like to impress upon you that aliens aren't supernatural. Everything they do is technological. I would like you to regard them as being people. Not necessarily more intelligent than yourself, but better educated and from an older and more advanced technological society. They're capable of expressing all sorts of different emotions in varying amounts. For instance, when I come across the ant species, who was up in the spaceship that I was in '72, he actually had a bit of a self-deprecating sense of humor, but behind it all was an anger. He didn't like people having a go at insectoid species. Like on this planet, people will stamp on a cockroach or hit a fly with a newspaper. That's the sort of thing that makes him upset. So I really just want to impress on you that they really are people. They're not monsters, and they're not all nice. They display all the variations of emotions that the people in this room would express, or people out on the street. They can be as nice or as nasty as anyone out in the street. That makes them as dangerous as any human being. So don't think it's all Star Trek and science fiction like that. Neither is it like Doctor Who, constant invasions. Actually, the species I've come into contact with don't really seem to be part of any Star Wars Empire sort of thing. They're all individuals, and they're all here for different reasons. Some liaise with each other like the tall whites. They're usually seen in the companies of the midgets, the greys, and the time travelers from Fomalhaut. They seem to have a bit of a network, and they're very influential in doing a lot of things. But yeah, they're not monsters. So don't get hyped up on a lot of this. How should I put it? Altruism. Yeah, don't get too hyped up on the altruism, because you're really just dealing with people. Intelligence is universal. It doesn't really matter what package it comes into. A lot of people on this planet have a lot of trouble with racism. Chinese or Africans or something like that, white people. You can encounter the same thing with aliens. Some of them don't like each other because of the societies that they come from. They've taken a different evolutionary path. They've developed their own native sociology, which doesn't necessarily encompass our type of morality. So, if you are lucky enough to have an experience, just bear that in mind. For instance, I once met a reptilian. This individual was extremely bad-tempered, and he had a thing. He didn't like military people. Absolutely detested them, and military people, as you know, can be very, very pedantic. They have to follow orders. They do this and that, and it's all about obeying and doing your duty and stuff. This one is totally anarchic. I don't have a name for him. I don't have a star system for him, but he is a reptilian, and he vocalizes. He's not a telepath. And he doesn't suffer fools very lightly. And when I come into contact with him, he actually didn't like having to interact with me, because he said he had a lot of work to do, and he didn't like being pulled away from it. He was actually working in concert with some government organisation. Anyway, he got into an argument with a soldier, and he shot the bastard, killed him stone dead. So they're not all nice. I was in a kind of like this hut structure, which was kind of like an ante-room to someplace bigger, where he does a lot of work. There was nothing in there except a bench and a telephone, and sort of like I was stunned at this. I just came out with this thing that, well, what are you going to do about the body? Are you going to ring somebody to take it away? So he said, yeah, well, I suppose I'll have to be bothered with it. So he picked up a telephone, And he rang, and some more soldiers came with a body bag and actually put the body in it, sealed it up, and took it away. So it's an extremely unpleasant individual, unlike some of the others I've met. For instance, back in '72, this reptilian I met was in fairly recent times, but back in '72, and I've said this before, probably about 10 years ago when I gave a talk here, there was a lot of different species, and I was questioned about what my attitudes were to the universe. Was I religious or anything like that? And one individual, they were all able to talk in English, some of them vocalized, and one question which always sticks out in my mind was, why would an all-encompassing being who created the universe be interested in a puny life form like you? What have you got to offer? And I said to him, well, I'm not particularly religious. As far as I can see, there's no reason. I said, you travel the universe, you tell me. So I was cheeky enough to ask that question. That's the kind of person I am. But that's something about some of the species that I've met. But I've had more recent experiences. Back in 2007, I was at home. I'd been living with my niece, who came and planted herself on me in 2003. She didn't like the place she was living in up in Liverpool, so she came to stop with me. Anyway, I got up one morning and I had to go to the chemist to go and get some medication for myself. And so she was cleaning up, and I said, look, I'm only going to be half an hour, 45 minutes. I'm just going to pop down to the chemist down in Kingsford. So she said, all right, I'll just be here when you come back. I'll probably take my son down to school, or do a bit of shopping or something like that. So I put my coat on and I walked down the street. I went to the chemist that I usually used to get my medication at. It was a chemist called Zani's. It was a Greek fella used to run it. When I went in, I found one or two of the people who usually served in the chemist were actually cleaning up. So I went up to one of the women. I said, "Oh, what's happening here? Where is everybody?" And she said, "Oh, we're moving." I said, "Oh, you never told me about this. Where are you moving to?" So she took me to the door, and she pointed over the other side of the roundabout to where there is it's actually a produce market now. It's next to South Sydney Juniors. And she said, "Oh, we're moving over there." And it was, to my amazement, there was an 8-story building there, which had never been there. And I'd, been down to Kingsford about a week and a half earlier. So I saw this building standing there. I thought to myself, well, they can't have put the bloody thing up in a week and a half. What's happening here? Anyway, she said, just go across into the new building. If you go up an escalator 1 floor, you'll see the new chemist place just opposite a newspaper shop. So I said thank you to her, and I left the shop and crossed the road and went to the new building. Rode up on an escalator. When I got to the top, to my left there was a newspaper shop. To my right there was a large chemist, and one of the ladies, a Chinese lady who usually served me with my prescriptions, recognized me, and she said, "Oh, I haven't seen you for a very long time." I said, "Oh, well, I've been around." And she said, "What can I do for you?" I said, "Oh, well, I'd like to have my regular prescription." And And so she checked up and she said, look, we don't have one for you, you'll have to go to the doctor's. So I said, oh, okay, that's all right. So I went all the way back up the street, I went to my doctor's, and the doctor said, oh, we haven't seen you for a very, very long time. What have you been doing? I said, oh, well, I've been around. You know, I just need a prescription. So I got a prescription. I went back down to the chemist and got the prescription. And then I went home. Didn't think anything more about it. 1 week later, I had cause to go down to Kingsford again, to this time to get some shopping. I walked down the street, and fair enough, my old chemist had closed, but there was no building there. So it was a case of a disappearing building. I'd actually physically rode up an escalator, talked to a woman who'd given me a prescription, rode all the way back down, and there was no building there. All the people had gone. So it's a really strange happening. I was awake at the time. If my niece was still alive, she would verify what I'm saying. It's just one of those really, really strange occurrences. Also in 2007, I had a really strange event happen to me. Because I live in a one-bedroom flat, I gave the bedroom over to my niece and my nephew, and I slept on a settee for about 5 years in my own flat because she wouldn't go. You know what family are like. But anyway, I woke up about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. It's usually around about that time, and I felt that there was something in the room, and I thought, oh, maybe she's got up for a post-midnight snack, which she was wont to do. And often she'd bring my nephew with her, and they'd go into the kitchen and make a sandwich or something. Didn't always put the light on, but they'd get something out of the fridge and then go back into the bedroom. But it wasn't her. Because it wasn't very light in my living room, they were actually rebuilding the Unisurge building next door to me, so there wasn't an awful lot of light at that time. There's a lot of dust and noise. But I saw this figure moving around the room very, very silently. But I felt there was someone in the room, and it was moving backwards and forwards in the living room, and went in the kitchen and come back out again. It was tall, and it looked like glass. You could see the outline of the humanoid shape, you know, 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head. But as you look at it, you could see right through it, just like a glass window. I'll speculate that it's not a separate species. I actually believe it was probably a P-51, a Pegasi, a tall white, using a piece of technology. It was silent, it didn't say anything, and I could barely hear any depressions on the carpet. So that's one of my latest experience, apart from seeing a few UFOs over Kensington Oval over the last few years. Very, very strange experiences. Totally different from my experiences in England. As I was a kid, I have some very vivid memories of from when I was actually 1 year old. Now, you might not be able to believe a 1-year-old can remember such things, but the impact of these visits are etched on my mind. One day I was in a spare room. It was actually my toy room. There was nothing in there. My parents had a bed, and I just kind of like had a cot. And I used to play on the floor. There wasn't the carpet because we were very poor. And I was just playing in the room, and one morning, the door opened and a tall white came in and picked me up. I remember being cradled in its arms. It had a curious warmth to it. It was the feeling that you get when you're holding warm leather. If you know what I mean by that. And it was cradled in my arms, so it was partially warm, partially cold. And basically what it did was it put its finger in my mouth to feel whether I was teething or not. So I've had alien fingers put into my mouth. That's one of my earliest experiences. And ever after that, I had a lot more experiences. For instance, one of my earliest memories was when I was at school, when I was 5. I was coming away from school, and my mother was actually with me. And as we came out of the gate and past the metal fence, I turned to look back into one area of the playground, which is a little bit secluded from the main road. And what I saw was a whole bunch of kids grouped around this P-51. And I said to my mother, "What's that? What is that?" And she said, "Oh, don't pay any attention to it, it's just a clown." I said, "That's not any clown that I've seen." And she wanted to argue with me, and she just pulled me away. Later on, at the age of 7, I had a similar experience when I went to a junior school. But this time there was 3 different kinds of alien species. There was the greys, the tall whites, and the Epsilon Eridani, the midgets. And there was a whole lot of kids in the playground, and each one was being talked to or visited by this group of aliens. And I remember a very distraught teacher, a female teacher, come out and she said to me, "Keep away from the whites, those ones are dangerous, they'll make you sick." You know? And because I'd seen them before, I wasn't particularly scared. And then I saw one of the Zeta Reticulans. I went up to it, and I said, "Oh, you're not after me, are you?" And he said, "No." He said, "You've been with us before. You know who we are and what we do. We don't need to see you." You know, they were doing things with the kids. It was kind of like the tall whites, because they're telepathic, can not only download things into your mind, they can hypnotize you. As an adult, standing in the middle of a road not far from where my grandfather used to live, in aged miners' cottages, I saw a tall white talking to a woman at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There was a few kids around and not many other people. But I could see from her eyes she was hypnotized, totally under its control. And I was just standing there listening to the conversation that they were having. It was asking who she was and what she was interested in and stuff like that. And it just basically acknowledged I was there, but didn't want to talk to me or anything like that. Basically, because it was probably one of the probably the original one that had picked me up when I was a child of about 1 year old. All of these things happened in daylight, broad daylight. I told my parents about it. My mother and father actually went down to the school with me to have a look around, but there was nothing there. But because that was a couple of days after. But my father always believed me when I said I'd saw things, because he admitted to having seen things himself. So did my brother. Only my mother always denied that she'd ever seen anything. She'd seen it as much as we did, but she had this thing that she wouldn't admit it, whereas my father and my brother would do. My brother apparently had went with one of the formal Hort aliens down one of these quantum tunnels, and he'd ended off in World War II. He was born in 1943. It took him back to that era, and he can't. When I saw him come out of the spatial anomaly out of the wall, he was all upset, and he said, "Oh, I've seen some horrible things," but he wouldn't talk about much more after that. I've been down those quantum tunnels myself. One in particular, well, on a number of occasions, I was at my auntie's house. She used to live in a seaside town called North Shields in the UK, and I forget who it was, but somebody said, "Oh, I think you should go upstairs and see what's up there." So I went up to one of the bedrooms, and when I opened the door, there was a spatial anomaly there. And a friend of mine and someone she knew had come through the spatial anomaly. They had actually come forward in time by 6 years to when I was a lot older. I'd last known her in 1962. When she came through a spatial anomaly, it was 1968, and stuff like that. I'm not going to divulge the kind of conversation I had, but after a while, her and her friend went back. They'd not only had travelled 6 years in time, but they'd also travelled 3,000 miles from a different location. I've seen a lot of these spatial anomalies. Again, down at my grandfather's place, spatial anomaly was produced in broad daylight in the open air, to such an extent that I was able to walk through it. It didn't lead anywhere in particular. I just went right through it and right back out again, like in a horseshoe, and basically it was just like you go backwards or forwards by about 10 seconds or something like that. It was a demonstration. It was like the time when I was first given the piece of technology to open up a spatial anomaly. I was in my father's old family home, and I was up in the attic, and a tall white gave me the device, which I used and opened up the anomaly, went through it and came back out the other end, just a few seconds. It's really interesting. I've theorized about how the anomalies work. Basically, you don't have to have a lot of energy to open up a spatial anomaly. The little device I had just puts out a small amount of energy. It punches a hole right through space, and what it does is it makes all the atoms get into a lock and key kind of arrangement, so that you have a stable tunnel. I've theorized it probably works on something to do with torsion physics. If you know anything about tornadoes, they're weather anomalies that rotate, and inside there is usually it's usually quite hollow, and there is no wind. It's very stable as the tornado passes over you. So I've theorized how they work is you have a burst of energy. It produces a quantum effect that is cumulative, and and it pushes a tunnel right the way through space. It's stable enough to walk through because all the atoms, as I say, realign through this torsion physics. So you have a tunnel that goes right the way through. Because you're interfering with space, and that's intimately connected with time, you're able to take advantage of a time dilation thing. So you can get from A to B in a very small amount of time. A lot of reports to do with spaceships often have been reported. For instance, they've seen a spatial anomaly open up in the sky, and they've seen flying saucers come out of the anomaly. What I think that is, it's an adoption of formal technology, and what they're doing is just opening up a quantum tunnel to a larger extent with a larger amount of energy, and they're allowing the spaceships to fly through it, rather than do it the old way, which is warping space and flying at superluminal speeds. So that's all right. I'm getting to wind up here.
Before you wind up, can I ask if you know this technology?
Yeah.
Have you put this to any scientists and used it?
No, I haven't.
And why not?
Well, look, usually before every talk I give, I usually tell people I don't have any hard evidence for what I talk about. It's what I've said to you today is anecdotal. If I bring into talk about some of the star systems to back up my assertion that some of these aliens come from specific places, I can do that because there's enough astronomical data to say that there are star systems going around these stars, and other phenomena such as infrared radiation, which points to there being planets that are capable of being inhabited. But I've never put any of this to any scientists, and I have mixed with scientists. In fact, I used to go to science colloquiums at the University of New South Wales for about 2 or 3 years, and they talk about basic physics and astronomy and stuff like that. But I never ever mentioned it because, like a lot of people who have experiences, you don't want to be thought of as a madman or an idiot. And
I have the most significant discovery of recent history, and no one will listen to it because they think it's too far out in the air. It's the most significant discovery in history.
What is it?
It's the human mind-body connection.
Yeah.
No one knows about it. People think they might know about it, but it's the human mind-body connection. I'm the founder of it, and no one wants to listen or wants to know anything about it. And it's the most significant discovery in history.
look, I could go on for a long time. If anybody wants to ask me a question before I hand it back to Mariana.
John, just one question. Assuming that other technologies or other civilizations started off a similar place to us and perhaps used radio waves initially to contact each other and close star systems, and then moved on to using photon technology or whatever, why is it that SETI is not picking up any of those signals? Is it because they've been so distorted we can't pick them up anymore, or do they not go through that phase? Or why wasn't SETI picking up, their equivalent of I Love Lucy?
Well, actually, there have been a number of things that have been picked up by radio telescopes. There was one in Australia, actually, Western Australia, in 1995. The signal was on air for about 1 hour, but other telescopes wouldn't verify it. And it's the same kind of thing. You must have verification. I actually have in my notes another incident like that, where a signal was received. But again, without verification, the scientific community won't take it. As far as my knowledge goes, aliens very, very rarely ever use the radio frequencies, and that includes the microwave ones. What they do is they use this quantum technology, because with the quantum technology, because every atom is connected to every other atom in the universe, right? You can...
is that quantum entanglement?
Yeah, the quantum entanglement. You can transmit information, or, to put it technically speaking, teleport that information from one place to another. Instantly.
So you're saying they bypassed in their early phases of development, they bypassed radio waves, microwave communications?
Yeah, I would say that most of the aliens that travel in interstellar do not use radio communication at all.
Or have never?
Or they probably did in the earlier evolutionary stages.
Where would those signals be?
Well, look, it takes a long time for a radio signal to reach Earth. So like, for instance, the Pegasus constellation is 573 light years away. So that would take something like 573 years for a radio signal to reach us.
How about SETI has picked up signals, they're just not telling us?
Well, as I say, signals have been picked up. One of the star systems I mentioned, Epsilon Eridani, which is 10.5 light years away, was actually a target of SETI quite some time ago. What really transpired with that, I'm not too sure. In my reading, it hasn't been too specific. But I do know that it was a target, and SETI. I met Seth Shostak down at the National Space Association, and they investigate all the stars within 150 light years. So any signal that they get in that corner is likely to be something like just 150 years old. We've only been on air since the 1890s. 1895, Marconi sent his radio signal. So that's something on like 120 years. But SETI searches 150.
No, I'll ask you something else now.
Yeah.
You've talked to a lot of different species. Do they say, have they said to you that they're back to the our little g gods and don't know there is a big G God? And how far out does the universe go and how does it start?
Well,
Just in a simple answer.
well, the universe is 13.82 billion years old.
How long?
13.82 billion years old.
Yeah, a lot of scientists are starting to say more like 50 to 100 billion now.
Well, that might be right, but they can't see further back than something like 500 million years after the Big Bang.
Apparently the Large Hadron Collider is scientists there are trying to prove the Big Bang didn't happen.
Well, look, that may be right. There are a lot of theories out there, and people are learning a lot about it all the time.
Also, so this Big Bang is happening every day.
Well, that's it. You know, you have a lot of radiation bursts out there.
So what do they tell you about God? Do they know anything about God?
No, they were asking me what I thought about God. I don't know that aliens are God. In theory, they would, I would say, probably take up some of the morality or things like that to do with religion.
How do they believe they came and how?
I've never been told that.
Have you been told by any of the races?
No, never been told that.
Not one of these ever discussed God, little G or big G God?
Only discussed God to find out what I thought about it.
Yeah.
I've never been given any kind of information like that. Just shown technology being taken up into a ship, met different species.
You never asked those questions?
Well, I'm not particularly religious.
No, not am I.
No. Look, when it comes to religion, there are so many religions in the world. They can't be all right and they can't be all wrong. Religion, sociologically speaking, is an area of social control. Much of it is man-made and doesn't come from a God at all. A lot of it has to do with dogma. But if you believe that there was a creator of the universe, right, and there is some scientific theories that propend that there was nothing or something before the Big Bang. Whether there was a God, science doesn't really go into those areas. Only that when it comes to Western tradition and Christianity and stuff like that, what they say is that the universe is a separate, distinct creation of a God.
Is there only one universe?
Well, there's probably at least two. It might be a hemispheric universe, and people have theorized about a multiverse. You know, you can have.
Yeah, I was just wondering what they may have said.
Well, I can't say that I've travelled interdimensionally at all.
More questions. When you have contact with the abilities, they mention about our relations with Ryan, the Lyrans. Lyran.
Yeah, I've heard there are some aliens from Lyra. I'm not sure which ones they are. I only know about the ones that I've met, and I don't know where all of them come from.
Right.
Only just a few.
Okay, how about in my understanding, Palladians usually have an average age of 37 or 38. Is it correct?
Pardon?
Pleiadians are 38 or so in age. They look.
I mean their lifespan.
Oh, look, some of them can have very long lifespans. I think the tall ones have over 150.
But the Palladians itself, since they are partially they're manufacturers, partially they are originals, like naturally evolved species.
Oh, well, they've probably been around for quite a few million years. There's probably been a lot of species been coming here for probably around about the last 1.8 billion years since Australopithecus was big in Africa.
Right.
Anyway, look, Mariana's given me a lot of time, and you've been very good in listening to me. I'm not the best of speakers, but I thank you very much, and hope you've enjoyed.